Antics on Scottish Turf, Chapter 1. November nights, newspapers and knobs. The first frost arrived on Monday, the 28th of November 1994, and spread itself across Devon like a cold caller with one foot wedged in the door. It felt as though it would never leave. Chipp and Pinn sat at Alison's breakfast table, looking like the epitome of homelessness, minus the dog and cardboard mattress, though clearly awaiting financial contributions. Alison had already left for work, and Lady Helen was still in the shower, apparently intent on bankrupting both the South West Water Board and Sweb Energy. Chipp had his head buried in the Daily Mirror, the only left-leaning paper he trusted, mainly because the sports section contained fewer long words. Pinn hid behind the Times, holding it up like a shield against modernity. The broadsheet crackled as he turned a page, sounding, as Alison liked to say, like a pheasant trying to dodge a 12-bore. Headlines in stern black type glared up. Major faces new Tory rebellion over Europe. Labour surge prompts questions for Conservatives. Pinn went pale. Not just pale, anemic. He looked like a man reading his own obituary, written by Chipp. Chipp didn't notice. "Cesare has scored," he muttered. "Miracles can happen, even before Christmas." Pinn, swallowing existential dread and the last drains of coffee, announced in the tone of someone revealing Britain had run out of coffee beans. Labour might win the next election. God help us. Blair will have us paying minimum wages, singing the red flag at rallies. The next thing you know, he'll bring in compulsory workplace hugging and a state-owned mindfulness service. That man has ideas above his station. Chipp didn't look up. Exeter beat Crawley Town 1-0. That's the story you should be panicking about. Pinn clutched his temples. Do you ever listen to anything? The country's sinking faster than John Major's popularity, and you're celebrating some bloke kicking a plastic globe into netting. But this is about survival, Chipp said. Exeter City are hemorrhaging money, $500,000 in debt. A good FA Cup run could save us. You say us like you've got a seat on the board. I have, Chipp replied. It's a bar stool at the Down and Gout. Pinn squinted at him. And where were you last Saturday afternoon? Here, watching grandstand on the Beeb, too cold to risk pneumonia on the terraces. So Exeter needed your support, Pinn concluded, but you decided to protect your delicate constitution? Truly, you are the heartbeat of the club. Pinn adored the Times because it made him feel as though he belonged to a class that would be slightly beneath him. You need to read a proper newspaper, Chipp, he lectured. The Times is dignified, proper. The language is like being wrapped in a cashmere jumper, knitted from Queen's English itself. It's Murdoch's Australian propaganda rag, and Aussies don't wear knitted jumpers in any language except Murdoch's, Chipp shot back. Every headline's designed to convince you Labour are going to sneak into your house at night and steal your granny. That's just lies, Pinn snapped. Lies dressed up as facts, Chipp continued. Buying the Times is like ordering a steak and being served pig's liver. He warmed to the theme, and trying to hide it under a prig of parsley and a puddle of Diane sauce to make it look respectable. And your Mirror, Pinn sniffed, once owned by Captain Bob Robert Maxwell, a man who'd eat you for breakfast and send the bill to your widow. He drowned mysteriously, Chipp pointed out. Yes, Pinn said, after helping himself to nearly $500 million from his own employees' pension fund. The only man in history to die weighed down by other people's money. Toast, Chipp offered. Toast, Pinn sighed. And coffee, provided it's not Maxwell House. I don't want haunted caffeine, and then we'd better head down to the lockup. On the stroke of 9, they arrived at the lockup. So depressing pigeons refused to nest on its roof. Today, no customers arrived. Not one. It was so quiet that an empty crisp packet blowing in through the window would have been considered footfall. Chipp reopened the Mirror, while sleet hammered the roof like the Four Horsemen tap dancing on Ringo's drum kit. Pinn slid a brown envelope from his pocket. It had the air of a warrant for his execution. He opened it and declared, with all the pomp of a man unveiling disaster, I hereby declare that Chipp and Pinn are officially solvent, semi-famous, maybe infamous, and spectacularly unemployable. Sit down, Chipp said, then get up, make coffee, and start again. They passed the day discussing Christmas, taxation, class warfare, and Exeter City's chances of extinction. Occasionally, they glanced at the door in case a customer had been mysteriously misdirected by fate. None had. By 5 o'clock, they locked up and headed for the Down and Gout before the universe thought of a new way to swallow them. Exeter glowed with its usual orange streetlight hue, the exact shade of cheap baked beans, now 6p from Aldi and Lidl. The pub looked cosy if you needed a drink, derelict if you'd already had one. Pinn clutched a pint and the brown envelope from the Inland Revenue, two things traditionally linked by tragedy. He slapped the letter on the table. The paper absorbed the spilt beer like a sponge absorbing shame. "We owe the taxman about £1,000," he said. "Tax on fame. The irony is painful." Chipp watched the paper darken. "I thought you declared that Chipp and Pinn were officially solvent, semi-famous, maybe infamous, and spectacularly unemployable. Look at that tax bill drinking that beer, just like the taxman drinking our income." "Well," Pinn sighed, "we owe £1,000 to the taxman, and we have £1,000 from Mrs Trebble, paid in advance to find her husband." "We're paying taxes on money we're not making," he groaned. "It is time." He paused dramatically. "To become tax exiles." "We can't afford a National Express ticket to Plymouth," Chipp said. "We're more like tax refugees who never made it to the coast." Pinn lowered his voice. "Insanely, we do have enough to pay the tax, because of that £1,000 down payment to go and retrieve that chap from the Isle of Skye. But why should we use money we haven't legally declared to the Inland Revenue to pay tax on money we didn't officially make? We can't do that. It's illegal." Chipp frowned. "You mean it's illegal to pay tax?" "No, Chipp, it's illegal to pay tax with untaxed earnings." "Good," Chipp said brightly. "Then you don't have to pay any tax at all. Another drink?" "Make mine a Gan tea. I need a diet drink." "2 Gans, then," Chipp said, standing. "Got any money?" "I've got the money I was saving to pay the tax," Pinn said proudly. "But now I don't have to pay it, we can spend it. Here's a tenner, make them doubles. I'll drink to tax solvency." "Until tomorrow," Pinn declared. Steve Downs stood behind the bar, polishing pint glasses with water that looked older than most of his customers. He eyed Chipp with mild suspicion. "2 double gin and tonics, please," Chipp said. "You two celebrating?" Down asked. "Looks like either romance or robbery." Inspiration struck Chipp, always a terrible omen. "Oh, Pinn and I are getting married," he said. "Not now, sometime in the future, but we thought we'd celebrate." "I hope you'll be very happy," Down said. "Do your girlfriends know?" "Don't be daft," Chipp snapped. "We're marrying our girlfriends. Men can't marry men in this country, not in 1994 anyway." "Shame," Down grinned. "You'd make a handsome couple." "Make that 2 triple Gans," Chipp muttered. "I'm having a breakdown. And by the way," he added, "try changing the glass washing water. I doubt you've changed it this month." "No need," Down shot back. "I just top it up." Chipp aged visibly. Chipp walked back at the table. "He's a wazzock," Chipp said. "Who is?" Pinn asked. "Down, that oaf. I told him we were getting married. That's why we're drinking triples, and he thought I meant you and me. A bit grumpy today, are we? And I thought it was doubles we ordered." "Yes," Chipp said, trying to justify himself. "Yes, that's why I ordered trebles. I was talking about Mrs Trebble, and he must have thought I meant treble Gans." He took a deep breath. He believed he'd got away with it. "He doesn't change the loop warm glass washing water, just tops it up. No wonder I leave here with a headache and a bad stomach. If the beer weren't so cheap, I'd get this place condemned." "I've heard," Pinn said, "that Environmental Health Department told Down he'd have to renovate this place before they could condemn it." Pinn nodded at the bar. "I see he's put out some Dorset Knobs. They say you lose teeth eating them." Chipp, ever the mug for new experiences, said, "I'll get a couple, and we can find out." He returned with 2 side plates containing Dorset Knobs, plus butter and a block of Dorset Vinny cheese, so hard it was once used to prop up a shed to prevent it subsiding, and 2 pints of cider. "The cider's for dipping the knob," Chipp declared solemnly. "Softens a Dorset knob, apparently. Down told me himself, though he might have just been trying to flog me 2 extra pints." Until this moment, Pinn had been baffled as to why they needed cider when they were already juggling pints and triple Gans. Now, tragically, he understood. Major hangover incoming. They huddled at the table with their pints, Gants, knobs, cheese, and cider. Both knobs were the colour and density of fossilized cannonballs. The fire sputtered like an elderly vicar lighting a fag. Rain, posing as sleet, slapped the windows in furious bursts. Pinn inhaled, ready to deliver the ancient tale of the knob that cracked King Ethelred's front tooth, the only one he had left. Just before Pinn was going to have a discourse on the history of the Dorset Knob, the pub door burst open like a jackboot kicking a bicycle. Alison stormed in, wearing the face of a wrathful Indian warrior goddess. She took one look at Chipp and Pinn. "Which one of you idiots authorized this level of drinking?" She was about to set upon Chipp when a second gust blew in Lady Helen, trailing rainwater and disdain in roughly equal measure. Her eyes went straight to the plate. "If this is what civilization has come to, I rescind my membership." "What on earth are those things?" "Dorset Knobs," Chipp said. "They're so hard they make rock cakes crunch like marshmallows." "Dorset Knobs, not ours," Pinn added quickly. "Bought them at the bar." Lady Helen clutched her pearls as though a pagan ritual had begun. "Must you say that out loud in a public house?" "What's wrong with Dorset Knobs?" Chipp asked. "This is a family establishment," Lady Helen hissed. "We were debating whether to butter them, dunk the knob in cider, or bite them dry," Pinn said. Lady Helen shuddered. "Bite them dry?" Chipp frowned. "Isn't that a myth?" "Not to orthodontists," Pinn muttered. Alison leaned in. "Why do they call them Dorset Knobs anyway?" "Because West Country molar crunchers didn't sell," Chipp said. "And Dorset knobbings caused wedding rates to decline," Pinn added. Chipp nodded. "Apparently, the best way to eat a knob, if you're a woman and don't like butter, is to dunk it in cider. I met a Dorset woman who swore she preferred a Dorset knob in cider." Lady Helen groaned. "I survived the McCain-MacLeod clan, but this is beyond me." Chipp picked up a knob and rolled it thoughtfully. "You know there's a Dorset knob throwing festival every year." Pinn perked up. "That sounds violent. Do they wear protection?" "Only if they enter the three-knob challenge. Tradition says you must shout, 'Have at thee, knob,' before throwing, to scare off the butter spirits." Pinn nodded, impressed. "Three knobs at once? That's an extreme sport." Lady Helen put her head in her hands. "I left Scotland for this?" Down wandered over. "You lot discussing Dorset Knobs again?" "We are," Chipp said. "Know any legends?" "Oh, plenty. My Uncle Joe, born under the sign of the Badger, once cleared 2 milk churns and a passing cyclist. The parish still talks of the great knobbing of '82. A croaky voice drifted from the bar's shadow. "And that were nothing," it rasped. "I once saw Uncle Joe knock a man clean out with a single knob." Lady Helen stared. "He threw it at him." "No," Down said. "He bit into it without dunking first." All the candles flickered, and a chunk of Dorset Vinny exploded across the room. Down wiped his hands on a cloth that should have retired in 1976. "Anyway, if you're discussing knob safety again, take it outside. We don't need another incident." "What incident?" Chipp asked. "Last year's Dorset knob duel. 2 customers circling each other under the full moon. The referee dressed as Thomas Hardy reciting the Mayor of Casterbridge. Only 1 molar walked away." Pinn grinned. "Holy molar, now that's a folkloric showdown." "That's it," Lady Helen said, rising as though the devil himself had been invoked. "I am leaving before this descends any further into rural myth or filth." "Too late," Down called. "The annual Dorset Knob Limerick contest. Pinn, you're up, but only after the customary Dorset Knob song." Chipp raised his pint. "Pinn, quick pint, quick limerick?" "All right," Pinn said. "Here goes. I got my knob out at Corfe Castle. I stuck a ribbon on it as a tassel. I threw it as far as I could, but it fell where I stood, so I gave up. It was too much hassle." At that moment, they all realized the same grim truth. If Pinn's limerick was bad, Chipp's rendition would be a public health emergency. Down concluded the evening with, "And thus ends the great knobbing of '94. Nobody's knob limerick stood proud. Alison stood and left before any more limericks could damage her soul." Chipp and Pinn stumbled after her for a lift. Lady Helen swept out separately, apparently for late-night Christmas shopping. Chipp and Pinn would indeed have a hangover that throbbed for hours in the morning. Tomorrow, the frost would return, the tax bill would still exist, and the Dorset Knobs would remain uneaten. But Chipp and Pinn, against all odds, would still be Chipp and Pinn, and that was trouble enough.